Hang on. Alright, what's up YouTube? HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys today because we're talking about the Prank Kids. Yes, the Prank Kid deck profile. So this was actually a deck I was looking into. Oh, that's my other phone. I do apologize for that. Um, I was looking into this deck a while back, and the reason why I was looking into it was because I was very interested in the Prank Kids. I was very interested to see what the Prank Kids had to offer. It's a Fusion Link deck. It's a very fun Fusion and Link deck, and ironically enough, it won an event prior to this recording. So I'm very excited to see it. It's actually a good deck that can do well. You don't really see that from a lot of these side sets. You'll see very casual decks out of them. You'll see very good support cards out of them. It takes really much more stuff from a main set to really get the deck going. So that's what a lot of people are hoping to see when it comes to these type of decks. So it's very shocking that the little bit of material that this deck had, the overwhelming combination it has with it, fared off, and it did extremely well to do what it did. So, with that all said and done, I want to give you guys my variation of the Prank Kids. So in this version, I am running 3 copies of all of the main Prank Kids. I'm running 3 copies of Prank Kid Rock, 3 copies of Prank Kid Lamp, 3 copies of Prank Kid Dropple. Oh, Drops, I'm sorry. 3 copies of Prank Kid Pulse. And I'm running pretty much support cards. 3 copies of Elemental Hero Prisma, 3 copies of King of the Swamp, and 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. For the spells, I'm running 2 copies each of Prank Kids Place, Prank Kids Prank, and Prank Kids Pandemonium. For the rest of the spells, I'm running 2 copies of Call by the Grave, 2 copies of Polymerization, 2 copies of Instant Fusion, 2 copies of Terraforming, 2 copies of Thunder Dragon Fusion, and 1 copy each of Raigeki and Dark Hole. For the traps, the only trap I'm running in this deck is Prank Kids Plan. For the rest of the cards, we're going to move on to the extra deck, and that is in the form of Prank Kids House Battling Butler, 3 copies of Prank Kids Rocket, 2 copies of Prank Kids Weather, 1 copy of Prank Kid uh, Wargoon. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it. Wargon. 2 copies of Prank Kid Doodle, 2 copies of Prank Kid Bow Wow, 1 copy of Barrel Sword Dragon, 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn, 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, and 1 copy of Nightmare Cerberus. So, what is the whole intention of this deck? Well, the Prank Kids, like I said, are fusion based deck that has really great fusion monsters, but they also have great link monster support. So, the way these guys work is when they're used as material for a link summon or a fusion summon of a prankster monster, a prank kids monster, they get an additional effect. Rock has the ability to banish 1 card from your hand, and then if you do, you draw 1 card from your deck. Then you get the ability to special summon another Prank Kid monster from your deck, but it cannot be Prank Kid Rock. A lot of the Prank Kids will have that thing where they'll summon another monster, but it can't be a copy of themselves. Prank Kid Lamp has the ability to burn your opponent for 500 points of damage. Prank Kid Drops has the ability to give you 1,000 life points. And Prank Kid Fan has the ability to send 1 card from your deck to the graveyard. Now, a lot of people may say that that's a lot of these effects are well one shot. But the way these guys work when they're fused and link summoned, um, or used for link infusion material, these guys have great synergy with a lot of things. It doesn't matter where they're sent to. They can be sent from the deck to use for fusion. They can be sent from the hand, the banish. As long as they're sent to the graveyard, for a link or a fusion material, they are going to go off. And that's where a lot of the key things come from this deck. Not only that, but the massive summons. So, King of the Swamp. This is a very old school card. This came out around the GX era. This card works very well with this deck because of the fact that it treats itself as a monster who will be listed on the material of a fusion monster, not the base material. That's the whole thing about the King of Swap. It has to be properly used as the name of a monster, not as the sub attribute. This is kind of part of the reason why a lot of people dropped it from the fusions decks of heroes, a lot of the hero decks, because of the fact that the only real thing you used it for was to help you go into absolute zero. It couldn't go into the shining and stuff because it couldn't count itself as a monster of a specific attribute. They only count it as the name. So a lot of fusion decks mainly run it for the fact that it searches for polymerization, which is still one of the oldest cards in the game that gets a lot of use. I've seen polymerization in the whole fusion aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh transcend through many boundaries. So it was only a matter of time before they gave us an archetype that specifically surrounded itself in Fusion and Link. I mean, there's Xyz, I believe, that did it. There's Fusion monsters that have done it. And there wouldn't be surprised if we get, they already have Link monsters that are going to do it. That circumvent themselves around it. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get variations of those monsters as well. Kind of similar to how we got Xyz that were pendulum monsters, a Synchro that was a pendulum monster. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a Link monster that's a pendulum or a fusion and Exceed, all that, all wrapped into a Link monster. It'd be cool to see actually as well how far they go with it. Um, Now let's talk about Prisma and what Prisma can do. Prisma pretty much treats itself as the name of a monster that's listed on a fusion that's listed as fusion material on a fusion monster. The way this works is it's pretty much sending the prank kids to the graveyard, and then you can use their abilities to summon each other. You can use, I think one of the cards has a way to recycle them to the graveyard, from the graveyard to the deck, and it's actually in the form of one of their spell cards, which we'll get to soon. So Prisma pretty much is just helping you get that additional name, that additional cost out the way. The Ash Blossoms are pretty much here to play defense, and that's kind of their only main source at this moment, is to opt out and play defense. They're a really good defensive card. They're one of the best defensive cards in the game when it comes to hand traps. So that's why I just flashed it in here. For the spells, like I said, polymerization, basic generic fusion spell. Let's talk about Thunder Dragon Fusion. So why are we playing Thunder Dragon Fusion? Well, it has to deal with the only Thunder monster that's a fusion monster in the archetype, and that's Thunder House Battling Butler. And pretty much what his material needs is lamp, drop, and pulse. Well, as long as you have those fusion materials for a fusion monster, for a thunder fusion monster, you can shuffle them into your deck that have are face up in your banish, in your graveyard, and on the field. And I believe in your hand. Among these cards, yeah, from your field, your graveyard, and face up in your vanish. So you're pretty much recycling all these monsters. In case like something happens to them, they get banished. You can use Thunder Roar Fusion to send them back into the deck. Not to mention, if this card is banished, you can add a Thunder type monster from your deck to your hand. Which I think the only Thunder monster is, yeah, Prankid Pulse. So that's not too bad. It has a search aspect and it has a fusion aspect, which works well with this deck. Now let's get on to their actual fusion setup. We have Prank Kids Pandemonium, quick play spell card. It allows you to fusion summon for a Prank Kid monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field listed on that monster. And also, the only things you can normal or special summon for the turn are Prank Kids, but that's perfectly fine. I kind of look at this in the same sense as how I look at Harpie's Feather Roosting, because of the fact that it does limit you after you use this card's effect on what you can and cannot summon. With this deck and how it works, you're going to mainly focus on summoning monsters of that archetype, similar to how Harpies are going to be locked once you use um, Harpy's Feather Roosting, so that way you're only forced to summon wind. But the way wind has been working lately, you have a lot of wind potential. Not to mention you can just play the card after you done summons of a lot of non-wind monsters. Then play Feather Roosting to get into a lot of those plays. Or just play really good wind monsters. And trust me, wind has a ton of cards. But back to Prank Kids, they have a lot of good monsters in their archetype. So don't be afraid if this card says you're locked into summoning them, because don't worry, you have Link monsters who are prank kids, you have Fusion monsters who are prank kids, and you have a lot and a ton of support from the cards around them. Prank Kids Prank. So this is their little pot of avarice. You discard a Prank Kid card to special summon a Prank Kid token. Fire level 1, 0 attack and defense. It can be used for tribute, and during the end phase, you can target 3 Prank Kid cards in your graveyard, except for Prank Kid's Prank. Shuffle it into your deck, then draw one. So this is, like I said, your pot of avarice. And it's a tremendous card because it's going to give you tokens, which you can use for your Link monsters, because none of them exclude tokens, which is great. Then on top of that, it is a pot of avarice. You can send all your prank kid cards except for a copy of itself back into the deck, and then shuffle to draw a card during the end phase. So you get an additional thing. It's not gonna hurt you or hinder you because it is a prank kid support card. Cards are searching for each other anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised if they get a prank kid card that does search for themselves and traps, which I believe you get in their field spell. And the overall thing about this is just, getting all your material together and getting things ready for the next turn or for a retaliation play. Prank Kids Place. So it has multiple effects. The first thing is when you activate it, you can add a Prank Kid monster card from your deck to your hand. Once a turn, you can special summon a Prank Kid fusion monster by having all monsters you currently. When you summon a Prank Kid fusion, your monsters will gain 500 attack, even if the card leaves the field. And when a Prank Kids Link monster is summoned, all your opponent's monsters will lose 500 attack even if this card leaves the field. So it's a really good effect when you're looking at the aspect of both the fusion and the Link monsters. You get a When you summon a Link monster, your opponent's monsters are going to lose 500 attack. When you summon a fusion, all your monsters gain 500 attack. It kind of reminds me of how Necro Valley's Tomb works. How if you flip it, all Gravekeeper monsters will gain all Gravekeeper, all monsters your opponent controls will lose 500 attack. You have Necro Valley giving your opponent's monsters, all your monsters, or just in general all Gravekeeper monsters, additional 500 attack. So it's similar to that, but it's all in one card, and it's really great to deal with a lot of heavyweight cards. A great way to deal with a lot of powerhouses, and just overall just dealing with a lot of the back and forth. And especially because of this deck not really having much in the attack and defensive department, the fact that it can circumvent when you start bringing out a lot of your big cards, your boss monster, you have a lot going for this card. And this deck, and honestly, this archetype has 2 great boss monsters in the form of a Link and a Fusion monster. So the only trap in this deck, let's talk about Prank Kid's plan. During your main phase, after this card is being summoned, you can link summon 1 Prank Kid's monster using Prank Kid cards you control as material. When your opponent declares an attack, you can banish this card from your graveyard, shuffle any number of Prank Kid cards in your graveyard to your deck. And if you do, the attack of that monster is reduced equal to the number of cards you've returned. Which is great because it's a counterbalance to a lot of things. Um, I mean, it all really just depends on how many cards you're going to send to the graveyard, what other card effects are on the field, what other card effects are going off. I mean, you can even set up for this card and combine it with plan. I mean, ah. Okay, sorry about that interruption. So, pretty much you can combine this with your field spell, and you get a lot of combinations out there. Your opponent's losing stuff, more attack. You're recycling your materials. You're recycling a lot of your cards, and in just the overall sense, it's how I look at this deck is how I look at an advanced version of a Dolce, where you're getting a lot of your decreases in your boost depending on what monsters you summon. Where Madolche was pretty much just focused on powering up the field, swarming the field, and utilizing what stuff you were summoning to deal with a lot of the cards on the field. I guess a lot of decks can say that, but this is really just reminding me of Madolche. Also, I mean, look how cute these monsters are. Alright, so let's go on to their monsters. Let's start off with the Battling Butler. He needs a lamp, a drop, and a pulse for his fusion summon. He contributes himself to destroy all monsters your opponent controls. If this card in your possession is sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card effect, you can target 1 monster in your graveyard except for your fusion monster, special summoning. You're going to use this effect of Battling Butler once per turn. So, It's a board wipe of your opponent's monsters. It's a easy summon, and it's pretty much the highest attack monster you're going to summon. This is part of the reason why I was putting in the Thunder Dragon fusion, because of the recycle ability. It's going to summon this big guy, and then when this big guy, for some weird reason, if your opponent finds a way to kill it off, it's going to have a way to summon something to kill them off. And don't worry, I'll get to the Link monsters as well, because I think a lot of their Link monsters are really boss as well. But the fusion aspect of it is you got a big beater, you got a Regeki out of it, and it's a quick play effect too. So you can chain it to stuff like dealing with the hand traps, dealing with cards that will try to destroy it when it's summoned. Mainly Raigeki, mainly cards like Raigeki and Dark Hole and stuff like that. You can easily chain it to Torrential Tribute because that's at 3 now. That can be an issue at points. So there's a lot of just reaction cards with this. The Prankids Rocket. So two Prankid monsters for a fusion summon. When this card is fusion summoned, you activate the effect to have it lose 1,000 attack, but it can attack directly. Then you contribute it to summon two Prankid monsters in your graveyard with a different name. Oh, excuse me, and summon those targets that they can't attack. That's perfectly fine because then you can just use those monsters to link summon. It's one of your easiest summons because you can instant fusion. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, instant fusion does not negate effects, so this thing can easily. Oh, that's weather. You can easily just instant fusion a rocket, have rocket attack directly, pop off the rocket, go get two monsters with a different name, actual summon him, and bam, you can go into a link monster or into another fusion. Do note that the monsters this rocket summons cannot be fusion monsters, because I did oversight that on this effect. But I do like the fact that these cards are having interactions with instant fusion again, and just the fact that you can get those non-fusion monsters from the graveyard and summon them helps you go into your link play. So it's a lot of synergy within the archetype itself. Let's talk about our weather. Off your Prankid monster's attack, your opponent can't activate any card effects until the end of the damage step. So it gives them all the effect of um, what is it? The ancient gears. Then, as a quick effect, during your opponent's turn, you contribute this card to summon to target two Prankid monsters with different names, special summon them, similar to rockets. Which is also good too because you just put a lot of your heavy defensive monsters in play. Um, it is on your opponent's turn, so I guess it's more so of if this monster dies, go get two more cards to defend you and not have to worry about it unless your opponent's direct attacking or having a way to deal with special summon monsters. It's water, it's aqua, so that does play into some things there in terms of summonings and other things if you want to splash this deck into stuff. Which I was actually shocked. I thought it was going to be a machine, but it's water, so it's not too bad of a card there. It's very generic too in terms of the Prankids. It just needs Prankids for its summon. Um, I'm not going to talk about Barrel Loader because we're going to talk about Prank Kids Rorgon. So it's pretty much a dragon and a lion all in one. Two Prank Kid monsters. When this card is linked, two or more Prank Kid monsters must be link summoned, and if it is, tribute the card to destroy all your opponent's spells and traps. If this card in your position is destroyed, it's under the graveyard by your opponent's cards. You can target one card in your graveyard except for a link monster and add it to your hand. So it's pretty much a recovery card. It points up, down, right, left. It needs four monsters for its link summon, or a link total of four. 3k attack. It's pretty much the inverse of the big monster, where this is a aqua water, the other one was a wind thunder. And this one destroys monsters, this one destroys spells and traps. So they have a Feather Duster and they have a Raigeki in their archetype. This is one of their big hitters. So using the little guys to get to it isn't going to be a problem. Um, I like the fact that it is a Feather Duster for a quick effect because bam, there goes the back row. What else do you have to really worry about? You can chain it to stuff. I'm sure this thing can um, help you get your other monster back or return it to the graveyard. Oh no, it's graveyard. Return it to the deck so that you can have more uses out of it. Um, this is a really cool card actually. I do like how playthrough artwork is. But in terms of what it can do, like I said, it's a Feather Duster, it's a 3k beater. It will be a little difficult to summon for most decks. if you're not running the Prank Kids. But these guys can easily summon themselves. And actually, let's talk about the rest of the two link monsters they have. Let's talk about Doodle. This is a link to Prank Kid monsters. If this card is link summoned, you can add a Prank Kid spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. You can tribute this card to target two Prank Kids cards in your graveyard with different names, except link monsters, and add them to your hand. So a lot of these cards are not going to retrieve link monsters. The fusions are not going to retrieve fusions or summon fusions. But you get a lot of the synergy out of them when it comes to just popping cards here and there. It points up in it points down and left as opposed to pointing, which are very unusual points. But if you do a perfect link with this deck, a perfect um what is it co-link with this deck, I'm sure it's possible. You get a lot out of it in terms of just pointing what directions it points in, um, and just the overall things that it can do in terms of getting more monsters out. I know I sound like I'm a little rambling, because I've only really tested it a few points here and there. But I do have to say this is a really cool monster. Wind Thunder, which isn't bad as well. I thought it would be Winged Beast, but it's not too bad there. Now let's talk about Bow Wow. It's a link to Pyro Fire, 2000 attack, points left, points down. To prank his monsters itself, it gains one. All prank monsters this card points to gain 1000 attack. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you attribute it to target prank star monsters except for links, and add those cards to your hand. Also, prank his monsters cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects this turn, which is not bad. So it protects them from being destroyed by card effects. It's going to give monsters 100 attack, and yeah, just a powerhouse monster with recovery. So that's not bad either. Um, as opposed to pointing to the right, it's going to point to the left. So it's going to get some synergy there. And I really wish just put in the other monsters, because I'm not going to lie. I like the Nightmare engine. It's just very expensive physically. But that's because it's a very likable engine to splash in. Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn. And then just to top it off, I did put in the Barrel Sword Dragon because why not? I love the Barrel Sword Dragon. It's got a lot of synergy to a lot of things. It can be short at battle. Um, you change battle position, gain attack, swing over stuff. It's a really good monster, and it sucks that I can't get this card because it's so expensive, but it is still one of my favorites when it comes to a Link 4 deck. And you guys seen, I've been playing it with my Harpies, just because it's a really good card. It's a really good setup card. It's a really good finish, and it's just a powerhouse monster. So I guess that's pretty much it for this. The only other cards that I wanted to talk about were Infinite and Providence. If you wanted to just splash this card in somewhere, I don't really see where exactly at the moment, but it's a really good card to fit in. Of course, the other hand traps if you get the chance to put them in there, just for added defense. But I like how this deck plays. I like how it works. Um, if you guys are interested, of course, test it out for yourself, see how it works. And that's pretty much it for this deck profile. So I hope you guys do enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, HBJ signing out. Take care.